Welcome to the sixth chapter of the book of Esther. We left off the last chapter that Haman was advised by his wife and his friends to build a scaffold to hang Mordecai upon. In verse 6 now we'll see what happens, and in this chapter we're going to feature the prepositions epi and peri. They both are associated with a genitive, a dative, and accusative nouns. And they are also used as prefixes on many of the Greek words. We'll point those out and highlight them. And the P is abbreviated in epsilon P, and epsilon phi in many places. Now, the peri I don't believe is abbreviated. And it begins in verse 1. O the Kyrios apestise ton ipnon apo tu vasileos te nikta akini ke ipe to diakono avtu isferin grammata minimosina ton imeron anagenoskin avto. But the Kyrios removed the ipnon, sleep. Hypnotism, it's an English derivative, the hypnotism, and ipnon, the sleep, from the vasileos. That nikta, night, nocturnal, is a derivative for the nikta. And he told his diakono, deacon is a derivative, diakono, servant, to carry in. Now here's the east. We had that in, I believe, the last chapter, and it's here it is in a prefix to ferrying, to carry in. Otherwise it would be just to carry, ferrying, to carry in. Grammata, grammar, minimosina, the memorandum letters, the mention, the minimi, the mini in the Greek. Remember I was mentioning earlier that always is associated with something to do with memory or remembering, mention. And here it's a memorandum of the days, emeron, ephemeral, to read to him. So the king Artaxerxes couldn't sleep. So he woke up and called his servant to bring in something for him to read, something to do in the middle of the night. Evre the grammata ta graphenta peri Mardocheu, o sapingile to vasili, peri ton theo evnukon tu vasileos, en to philasin avtus, ke zitise epivalin tas hieras Artaxerxes. And he found grammata having been written. Graphenta is the verb. It's associated with the grammata. Graph is a English derivative. Something as a graph that's been written, picture on a paper. Concerning, here's the epi in the it having been written concerning Mordecai. The Mordecai ku shows that the ending in there is a genitive. So this is a genitive association with the peri, and it's concerning. In the dative and accusative, it could be different, but we don't have examples of the dative and accusative in this chapter. But when we come to them, we'll point that out. We're going to be staying in the prepositions for a while here. So concerning the Mordecai, as was reported, pingile, there's the gamma gamma, the alpha, has to do with an angel, a messenger, and here it is, the verb was reported to the vasili. To the dative, and the vasilefs is the nominative, when the subject, but here it's not, the king is not the subject. The king wasn't reporting, the king was reported to, so it's a direct, indirect object. And so it's in the dative. The to will give you the clue, the vasili. Peri, again, concerning the theo evnukon. Theo, we have di or for two, theo. And evnukon is a transliteration into English of the vasileos. And that's the eos is the genitive ending of the king during the philasine, their watch. The philasine, we have a prophylaxis, a guarding against disease, a prophylactic. The phila is the watching. And they're seeking epivaline. Epi we had earlier, and there is the preposition to put. So they're seeking to put hands on Artaxerxes, to put hands upon. Actually, it could be epivaline. Just the valine would be to put upon hands. But I didn't to put upon hands because it sounds kind of awkward. I just to put hands upon, or to put hands on Artaxerxes. Hieros, the hands. We have chiropractor, the hiero, the hieros. 6.3. Ipe they o vasilefs, tina doxen I harin epi samen to Mordecai. Ke ipen I diakoni to Vasileos, uk epi sesofto then. So the king reads these letters and he remembers concerning the two eunuchs that were plotting against the king. And so it mentions this story and then how Mordecai was written up extolling him for this help that he gave the king. And the king said, well, what doxen, glory, doxology in the liturgy, our favor did we do? The 4160, episamen is the verb, did we do? The P omicron iota is a poet, is the derivative. What did we do? Actually, in the to, it's to Mordecai, but in English it just doesn't, what did we do to Mordecai? It sounds like what do we, did we hurt him? It almost has a negative feeling. So I have for Mordecai. The for should probably be italicized. And the one, diakoni, the deacon, the derivative servants to Vasileus said, 5. We did not do. There's the 4160, the poet that appeased us. We did not do. Uk is the not. The dash here is a hyphen structure. 3756 is not. And the 4160 is the do, but the not is in the middle of this, so I make these structures called hyphen structures. We did not do. Here again, the dative to him, one thing, but I put for him, one thing. It doesn't say thing. In the Greek, we didn't then, not one is what the meaning is right here. But I added the thing for explanation. We did not do for anything for him, not one thing for him. And they to pinthanes they ton vasilea peri tis evnias Mardokeu idu aman enti avli ipe they enti avli ipe they o vasilefs tis enti avli o they iselthen ipin to vasili kremase ton Mardokeion epi toxilo o itimase. And during the inquiring by the Vasilea peri concerning the evnias, goodwill. The ev we have is a prefix in English for good. In some places, eucalyptus, EU, good covering. That's what it means. It's actually a Greek word. and noia, the neos, noia, we have paranoia, it's having to do with the intellect, and uh, uh, so the noia, it has to do with the intellect and the mind, goodwill of Mordecai. So the king is wondering what they can do for the goodwill. And behold, Haman was in the courtyard. I added he was. And one, the Vasilef said, who is in the courtyard? There's no is here. Who in the courtyard, the Greek, but I added the is. And he entered to speak to the Vasili, that is Haman, to hang Mordecai epi. There's a second instance of the epi preposition, and here it's in the dative, and it's upon the tree, to hang him upon the tree. The dative for this epi is upon. In accusative, we'll see that it can be upon, but it's also unto. We'll get to that a little bit here later. So this is in the dative upon the xilo. We mentioned that in the last chapter. We went through that in depth, that word. The xylophone being the derivative, which he prepared. 6.5k. Ipon e diakoni tu vasileos, idu aman estikan enti avli, ke ipen o vasilefs, kalesate afton. And one, the diakoni, the deacons, the servants, 3 of the Vasileos, of the king, said, behold, Haman stands in the courtyard. And the king said, the Vasilefs said, call him. And there's the imperative, so that means that there's a word in the verb in the imperative, and this is kalesate, call him. So in the Apostolic Bible, you always have an exclamation when the verb is in the imperatives. It's not just willy-nilly whenever you think it's imperative and you don't know. In the Greek, you can see what it is by the verb. And so it's very accurate, the Apostolic Bible, this way by using the imperative in this manner. So here's Haman coming in to get permission to hang Mordecai, and at the same time Mordecai is the king is wanting to extol Mordecai. So, but Haman doesn't know this, of course. Haman hates Mordecai, and Haman definitely has an attitude. In verse 6, Ipe they o Vasilefs to aman, ti piso to anthropo on ego thelo doxase, Ipe they en iafto aman, tina theli o Vasilefs doxase ime eme. And so the king, the Vasilefs said, 1, 2, 3, 4, to Haman, what shall I do? And there's the P, so, to the man, anthropo, anthropology, the derivative, whom ego, the ego, the I, the verb I, want to doxase, to extol, doxology, liturgy, the giving glory to God. 1, and 2, Haman, 3, said to him in himself, or to himself. In is in generally, but said in himself. I could have put in there if I wanted, but I put 2. Well, who does the king want to extol unless me? Doxase. And so Haman has this pride inside of him that he's the only one that counts, and that who else could the king want? It's got to be me. I'm the subject. Sort of reminds me of today, where everybody, it's all about me and I, what I want, how I want to do it, when I want to do it, and thinking only about myself. And this is so prevalent today in 2009, at least in the United States, the pride of the people here, and maybe not in other places, not going through good times like we are, where everything is plentiful. And so Haman has this high uh, feeling towards himself. And so in verse 7 it continues, Ipe they proston vasileia anthropon o vasilev steli. And Haman, that is, he said to the Vasileia, and there's the accusative Vasileia, different spelling, to the king, Anthropon, as for the man, or a man, whom the Vasilevs wants, doxase, as far as whom the king wants to extol, 6:8, enechatoson e paides tu Vasileos stolin, vicinin, in o Vasilevs perivalite, ke ipon ephon o Vasilevs epivaini. And so here, this is what Haman is suggesting to the king is actually what he would like to see happen to himself. And this sort of reminds me when I was in church a long time ago, and so with my friend, we were sitting there at the beginning of the praise service. We were both singing and praising the Lord, and we were just two of us behind this lady, and she turned around someplace and looked, and she said, "Boy, you sure have a nice voice," and turned around and went back to singing. And so I was wondering, well, which one of us had the good voice that she said something. So afterwards, my friend took the glory on himself and said that, well, something, yes, well, people have told me I've had a good voice. I let it be like that, but I was always wondering, well, which one of us really did have the voice that she heard praising the Lord. But anyway, he took he figured it was him. And it might have been, but this is sort of the type of thing what this is. It reminds me of that. And so the servants, he says, the servants of the king, let the servants of the king bring fine apparel, stolene, a stole, a robe, could be a robe, which the Vasilevs puts on, perivalite, the peri we had earlier, and it's around, and puts on or around. And epon, the horse, hippopotamus, epon, the derivative, upon, F, now there's the abbreviation, upon, and this followed by an accusative. And so upon the horse, let him put him upon the horse, which the Vasiles epivaini, which he mounts upon, actually, the epi, which he mounts upon. 6:9, ke thoto eni ton philon tu Vasileos ton endoxon, ke stolisato ton anthropon o Vasilevs agapa, ke anavivasato avton epi ton ipon, ke kiriseto diatis platias tis polios, legon utos este panti anthropo on o Vasilevs doxazi. And he continues, and give it to one of his friends, the Philon, the king, of the endoxon, the honorable ones, the doxology, and stolisato, we have the stole, a robe, this is a verb, and robe, the anthropon, whom the Vasilevs agapa, loves, agape, and mount him, epi, here's upon, again, the horse, epon, and let him proclaim through the platias, the square place, derivatives, of the polios, polis, metropolis, a big city, the main city, saying, utos, so it shall be done, panti, to every, all, as pan, and every, to every anthropo, man, whom the Vasilevs doxazi. So here's Haman says, and then make allow one of the friends of the king, the honorable ones, to put this robe on this man. whom the king loves, and mount him upon the horse that the king rides upon. And then let this friend of the king go through and proclaim through the square of the city, saying, so it shall be done to every man whom the king extols, to give people a sense of a reward for doing something good for the king. And of course, Haman's thinking this whole time, well, this is all going to happen to him, and he just can't wait. But then remember, he has this bitter hatred for Mordecai. That's the reason he came in here, was to have Mordecai put on the ksilu. And then verse 10 continues, Ipe the o vasileps to aman, kalos alalisas, utos pison to Mardokeo to Iudeo, to therapevonti inti avli, ke mi parapesato su logos on elalisas. And to the Vasilev said to Haman, you spoke kalos, well, a kaleidoscope, something that looks well, a beautiful view. You do thus, the 4160 do. You do thus to Mordecai the Jew, to the one attending in the courtyard. Therapevonti, we have a therapeutics, therapy, attending in the courtyard. And do not let fall from you a word, logos, word, a dialogue, the prologue, logos, a word which you spoke. And don't let everything that you said, do it exactly as you said. Don't miss a thing. So everything that Haman thought was going to fall on him falls upon Mordecai, his, can't say archenemy, because I don't think Mordecai didn't hate Haman, but the person that Haman hates the most. And here's a worst case scenario for Haman, or so far it's the worst case scenario. It gets worse, but Haman now is completely humiliated. It's sort of like when Jesus mentions when you're invited to a feast, don't go take the first seat up at the front table, because somebody more important than you may come, and the director of the wedding feast will come to you and ask you to move so this man can sit down, and all the other tables are all filled up and you end up by the back door. Sort of the same thing. Be careful. And so in verse 11 it continues, Elave the aman tin stolin ke ton ipon ke estolise ton marthakeon ke anavivasen av ton epi ton ipon ke diolthe diatis platias tis polios ke akirise legon utos este panti anthropo o vasilev doxase. So Haman took the stoling, the robe, and the epon horse, and he robed Mordecai, did exactly as he planned for himself, and mounted him upon the horse, and went through the square, the Platius of the Polios, and proclaimed Legon, saying, so it shall be to every anthropo, o Vasilevs, once to extol, doxase. Has to do exactly what he didn't want to do. I'm sure he was burning the whole time, pulling this horse behind him with the man he hates, sitting on top of it with the king's robe, and here he's playing the herald in front of this man. And so this is what happens to Mordecai. Pestrop they o Mardocheos istin avlin. Aman they epestripsen ista idea lipumenos kata kephalis. Well, of course, Mordecai is not going to ask for, Haman's not going to ask for Mordecai's head now to hang him. So Mordecai returned, it says, 1, 2, 3, to the courtyard, east, and two. And Haman returned east and to his own place, fretting with a downcast kephalis, a head, cephalic, has to do with the head. An English derivative, kata, is down. I put the with and the cast in italics. I added those to it for clarity. K, the gisato aman ta simvevikota avto zosara ti gineki avtu. K tis filis. K ipon pros avton I fili K I gini. I ek genus iudeon mardokeos. K irxo tapinuste emprosten avtu. Peson pesi umi dini avton aminaste otitheo zoon met avtu. And Haman described the things coming to pass to him, to Zeresh his gineki, the gynecologist. So he's explained it to his wife and to his Philis friends. And one, the Phili, the friends, and the wife, or his wife, said to him, well, since Mordecai is of the race of the Jews, the genus, genus is a classification, species, and you began to be humbled before him, in falling you should fall. In no way should you be able to defend against him, for the living God is with him. Theos zone. Zoo is animals, life, living, and theos, theology, is with him. So they saw that you dug your grave and now you're going to lay in it, even though they're the ones that talked him into it. So now Mordecai sees himself in a bad way, as the friends and wife pointed out. Eti avton lalunton paraginon te I evnuki epispevdon teston aman epiton poton on itimasen Esther. And while they were yet speaking, one, the evnuki, came, paraginonte. There's the para, preposition is a prefix, and the epispev, and there's another preposition, prefix, to hurry Haman, epi, unto. Now remember, epi before was upon the horse. Okay, it was two places. Well, now you couldn't pay the hurry Haman upon the banquet, so here it's unto the banquet. So it's sort of, when it's a place, it's unto, and when it's an object, it's generally upon, but not always. So this is that preposition, and the poton was the potable as a derivative, which Esther prepared. So if Haman thinks things are bad now, wait till he finds out what's going to happen to him in the 7th chapter. And also in the 7th chapter is going to be a word that is, to say the least, mind-boggling, that it appears here. And when we get to it, I'll expound on it a little bit and explain it. And so we hope you will join us in chapter 7. God bless.